All right, let's get started. First off, welcome everyone. I'm Lee with XM Elevation, part of the Pro Voice team, talking about some CX things. Been having some good times the last couple of sessions, just getting used to the system and sharing some insights. So last week, I think I talked about moments that matter and defining your customer journey and really trying to figure out where you sandwich in your metrics and your feedback and now AI. Today, I want to just talk a little bit about a concept I've been playing around with a couple clients I'm working with. Is really thinking about how CSMs are utilized within the revenue operation teams as well as the customer journey, and the concept of kind of more of a strategic value manager. Um, so first off, I'm not saying the CSM role should go away. I'm just seeing and talking to other leaders and starting to see that if we break down the CSM or the CS silo that I think I talked about 2 sessions ago, is really trying to broaden the reach of this CSM team, to be more customer experience focused. So aligning them with the customer journey, the revenue journey, and not just being a silo that's part of the workflow where sales just hands to CS and they say good luck. I'm also seeing that with the impact of AI, the cost of running teams, like the CSM role, in my experience the last 10 years, it took 10 or 15 years to validate that the role was actually awesome, to help drive. I think the focus a lot of times we're going to make sure that everyone can use the features of our products well, that we were a first point of escalation to navigate through other teams. And seeing CSM stick or not be put into tough situations for, let's say, sales talk or negotiations or adding on of products. They tend to kind of, I've seen some teams isolate the CSMs into this friend mode. But I think the cost of having those teams is now in question. So not only are CSMs asked to be doing more, larger book of business, but they're starting to question the farmer-hunter relationship. And so, again, if we're proactively looking at CSMs and where they can actually drive the most value, is really understanding the whole customer journey and that revenue journey. So, starting to see, and just some people I've been working with, they're like, "Man, we really need our CSMs to actually go and drive sales, drive growth, and really be more in tune with and more comfortable with negotiations." I actually had a client I was working with. Their CSMs were so siloed that they had a team that did renewals. They had a team that went, our sales handled all the upsells. So the CSM team was really in this weird spot, and they're trying to figure out how to, rebuild the team, which is probably going to have to be with some new people. Again, CSMs of 10 years ago probably aren't the CSMs that you might need when you're looking at building your teams now, because you do kind of want someone that, one, is very much focused on strategic value for the customer, what the customer actually needs. I think having your CSM or strategic CSM be more farther up in the sales cycle, partnering with sales, part of the ability to actually farm and negotiate and do renewals, is what I think teams are actually seeing. Like, how can we actually make this role a little more dynamic and less kind of put into a position of, okay. So then, talking about what is a strategic value manager, and again, it's not saying that, again, I'm just kind of using a different term to kind of allow us to kind of think about it in a new way. But let's see, JT, you're typing. What you got? You typing a question, or are you just typing? Can you see everything okay? Okay. Just planning or typing. Is really just, again, thinking about how can we shift the CSM into this broader approach. So, I mean, really focusing on the whole customer journey. And again, I talked about this earlier, but the CSMs typically and sometimes have been put in kind of a box, and they've been kind of more maybe escalation managers, more of an account manager, but without the wanting to have them talk about sales and negotiation. And this isn't all the case, right? I mean, there's great CSMs that are already doing this. They're already talking about strategic value. They're putting great customer success plans together that are focused on customer outcomes and customer needs. But it's just really creating a program that actually, um, oh, you put a question in. Well, Q&A isn't open yet. let me let me turn it. Okay, I will come back to the question. Let me finish this and then we'll get back to it. Um, let's see. Okay. So then really looking at owning the journey, being part of it, really thinking about the impact of just not features and functionality that is being used, but the outcomes that the customer needs. So, building that customer outcome trust and loyalty, which is really what you're trying to do, is earn the right to renew a customer over and over again, making sure that they're getting the outcomes they need. So there's a bunch of research out there. I mean, the amount of churn and first year churn that is impacted because of expectation settings, wrong ICP as well. But getting that strategic value manager in the sales cycle earlier to really understand and then take the customer on that journey is really important. Whoops. Okay. Another thing to think about, again, we're trying to actually also move from reactive to proactive. And I think companies that have been doing this really well, again, have shifted the focus of what their CSMs are actually focused on, and not being that single point or, first point of escalation, but really focusing on building a clear expectation success plan with their customers. So really pivoting the role to focus on where they dictate and where they direct their customers to is incredibly important. So if you put your CSM into a role where I'm the first point of contact for everything, then they really become less impactful and thinking about the time spent with customers on what are the strategic outcomes, what are they actually needing, and how do we get you and drive more business value for you. So, and then this comes to, again, building the trust and loyalty. And like I said, like as soon as the deal closes and the onboarding starts and all that, the whole post sales team, or if you're working in more of a revenue pod model, is winning the right every day to renew and grow that customer. And the only way that can really happen is by earning the trust and loyalty that you are a partner or vendor that is looking at driving outcomes focused on the value the customer needs. I think everybody always uses the analogy like, I didn't come in to buy a hammer because I love hammers. I do love hammers though. I came in to buy a hammer because I'm building whatever, a shed to put my, whatever lawnmower in. Like understanding what the outcomes are for customers is really where the strategic value manager can step in and actually drive the positive growth outcomes that customers need. So that shift is really just a way to think of things a little differently. And for God's sake, this is a big one, and I think I have another session I'm going to do on this one. But own the value narrative. I mean, it's just from day one. Like the strategic value manager has to really understand the business the customer is in. They have to know what the outcomes that they need, and the strategic value manager needs to be telling more than just their single point of failure what value is. If you're only focused on features and adoption and things like that, you lose the sight of actually the person telling your story correctly. And if you don't own the narrative, your single point of contact at your customer site is going to tell the narrative for you. And if they actually maybe leave, you've lost your single point of failure becomes your biggest advocate, also your biggest risk. So making sure early, and this is early in the sales cycle, is making sure that you're setting the expectation that you will be sharing the value narrative over and over again with the buying team, not just your person, that maybe one person you have a contact with. And this is also going into, man, get rid of QBRs, focus on the monthly value narrative model that is, I've done it before, put it into place, glad to share it. But again, it's changing how you actually define what value is. So, all right, that was it for that. Let me stop this and we go to some questions. Let's see, I go here and I will stop sharing. Hey, big me. All right, let me close some things here. Okay, spotlight on. Great question. Haven't even read it, but I know it's gonna be awesome, JT. I worked at a company that for decades split the hunter-farmer roles up. They eliminated it and created a new role where the person did both, failed miserably. How is this different to avoid? It's a great question. And yes, I had the same thing happen. They're like, people do want a separation. I do think it's important to have a sale. I mean, they're incentivized by different things, right? So a salesperson, not everyone wants to talk to their salesperson ever again after the first sales. But I think the ability to have someone who can drive the new business acquisition funnel as part of a pod, and then you do want someone who is strategically minded about how to grow the customer's success. It's two job skills. I don't think you could have one. Like I said, I've been part of an organization that did the same thing, and it was terrible because one, it was how the incentives were set up. They were more focused on bringing in new business than caring about how to shepherd the business towards success. So I think having that split is important, but I do think I believe the CSM roles needs to shift towards more of a strategic value manager who is in charge of owning the book of business, who can negotiate, who can sell, who can actually understand that that's part of being a trusted partner, is that you need to be selling the value, not just more seats and features, without understanding about how that actually is going to allow success for the customer itself. So, yeah, good question. And yeah, doing it wrong either way. I mean, it's kind of, depending on the type of products you're selling and how your engagement is with your customers, really can shift how you put your teams together that focus on this. But I think the days of just having a team that's dedicated for just happy customers and not owning some numbers and not being driven by helping the business move forward, I think those days are shifting. So, good question. All right. Another spot. Okay. Another one from you, Judy. How do you look at compensation in this situation? Always group bonuses, individual and groups. Thoughts? I like to do a couple of things. I mean, I think for me, salespeople are incentivized and are different types of people typically who get excited about, chasing the big bonus or the big win. I do find that you can, and this is something you can do, is if you're looking at maybe have a couple of years of data of churn, if you go back and actually tie the salespeople who sold the churn and look at that, you can kind of find some problems upstream with maybe selling to the wrong ICP. But if you have your bonus structure and maybe you have individual bonus or individual programs, as well as a group program, that tends to work. I also like to incentivize the salespeople and have have a first year renewal bonus for the salesperson. That typically can help with just selling to hit a number. Is really thinking about, is this the right type of customer for us? Is it something my other part of my team, my revenue pod team, can actually help grow and get us long-term revenue versus just that, year one, and then they tend to churn. So yeah, I think I like to do both. So I like to have individual and group, but also I like to put something in that first year, because usually if most companies can get past the first year renewal, you tend to have something going right, and you can make that a long-term customer. So good question. Anyone else have a question? Rob, welcome. We lost John. He was driving in his car. And Arnold. All right. I could ask my own question. Let's see. Anyone else? Any other questions? Okay. Maybe it's just a short one. Rob, you got a question for me? Just toss anything out there. How's the weather? How's your day? No pressure. All right. Well, I think we'll wrap this up. Hopefully, let's see. Like I said, I think the shift that's happening with CSMs, and again, just the people that I'm talking to, some of the companies I'm working with, are thinking about how do we get the most out of building post-sales teams that are really working really well with the acquisition teams. And again, it's coming together with the ultimate goal of finding the value for the customer. And this shift is just, value storytelling is very hot right now. It's been for the last couple of years if you've been in certain industries, but really focusing on driving the most value you can and telling a value story to your customers internally in your business as well. All right. I'm Lee with XM Elevation and awesome part of let's see, the ProVoice CX team. So it's been super fun to share this. If you want to DM me on any topics, please do so. You can find me on LinkedIn on subs. And I really appreciate you letting me share a little bit of my thinking and thoughts. Hope everybody has a great day. All right. Thank you.